A frail-looking girl, dressed in worn-out clothes with a tired gaze, sat alone on the sidewalk outside a luxurious restaurant in Los Angeles, holding a simple sign. To many, she seemed just like another homeless person. Passers-by avoided eye contact, hurriedly moving along. When Keanu Reeves walked out the door, he noticed her. Something about the girl made him stop, but what he didn't know was that this girl was hiding something. The reason she desperately needed money would leave you utterly speechless. Little did he know, that night would change not only her life, but his as well. Before we continue this story, let us know where you're watching from. If you enjoy stories like this, subscribe to the channel because tomorrow at 12:30 p.m., we have another special story for you. The night in Los Angeles looked like a living painting, with vibrant lights reflecting off the wet asphalt after a brief rain. The main street, lined with elegant restaurants and illuminated storefronts, echoed with muffled laughter and whispered conversations from within the establishments. One of these spots, known as a gathering place for celebrities and the local elite, was particularly bustling that evening. Keanu Reeves stepped out of the restaurant, his calm demeanor contrasting with the energy around him. He appeared lost in thought, perhaps reflecting on the pleasant conversation he had just shared with friends over dinner. But something made him stop abruptly on the sidewalk ahead. Nearly invisible to the hurried eyes of passers-by was a girl, no older than 12 or 13, sitting on a worn blanket. Her simple, tattered clothes reflected her difficult circumstances. In her hands, she held a small, handwritten sign. Her expression shifted between hope and resignation as she watched people walk by without so much as a glance. Keanu hesitated for a moment. He noticed how others ignored her, averting their eyes as if she didn't exist. The scene struck him deeply, stirring memories of challenges he had faced. Driven by instinctive empathy, he decided to approach her. "Are you okay?" he asked gently, crouching down to her eye level. The girl looked up, visibly surprised by his approach. Her voice came out hesitant, barely audible. I just need help. It's urgent," she said. Keanu studied her expression. There was something about her, a mixture of fear and determination. He took a deep breath before asking again, "What do you need the money for?" The girl averted her gaze, staring at the ground as though searching for an answer. Her prolonged silence carried a weight she wasn't ready to share. She avoided responding, leaving Keanu even more intrigued. Keanu noticed her hesitation, realizing she was struggling to find the right words. He didn't want to pressure her, but he also couldn't bring himself to leave her there alone. The street was bustling, yet that small space felt oddly detached from the rest of the world. "If it's that urgent, maybe I can help," he offered, his voice calm and reassuring. The girl briefly lifted her eyes, but quickly dropped them again, staring at the ground. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. "It's not for me, but I don't know if I should say." Keanu sensed the situation was more complicated than it appeared. He noticed her trembling, perhaps from the cold, perhaps from nerves. Feeling an inexplicable sense of responsibility, he decided to try a different approach. "Have you eaten dinner yet?" he asked. She hesitated, then shook her head. "Then come on, let's get something to eat," he said, pointing to a small cafe across the street. "It's too cold to stay out here." The girl looked around, as if weighing whether it was safe to go with him. After a few moments of uncertainty, she nodded and stood up slowly, grabbing her sign and a small backpack that sat beside her. At the cafe, Keanu chose a quiet table in the corner. A waitress brought menus, and he ordered 2 hot drinks and sandwiches. While they waited, he made another attempt to start a conversation. "Did you ask anyone else for help today?" She sighed, fiddling with the strap of her backpack. "Nobody wanted to help. They all pretend they don't see me," she said, her voice a mix of frustration and sadness. Keanu nodded, understanding the weight of her words. The silence between them was broken by the waitress, bringing their orders. The girl wrapped her hands around the warm cup, soaking in the much-needed heat. After a few minutes, Keanu tried again. "Now that you're more comfortable, can you tell me why you need help?" The girl hesitated but finally answered, I just need to save someone before it's too late." Her enigmatic response left Keanu even more intrigued as he tried to unravel the true meaning behind her words. The cafe was quiet except for the occasional clinking of spoons against cups. Keanu watched the girl as she took small sips of her drink. There was something about her that stirred a mix of concern and curiosity within him. He decided to take a different approach, sharing something personal. "When I was a kid, I went through some tough times too," he began, his voice calm and reflective. "I lost my father very early, and my mom worked all day. I often felt alone, but I learned that even in the darkest moments, there's always a way to move forward." The girl stopped fiddling with the rim of her cup and looked up at him, a mix of surprise and caution in her eyes. It was clear she hadn't expected to hear something so personal. After a few moments, her lips quivered, and she finally responded in a hesitant tone. "I lost my parents too." Keanu leaned forward slightly, encouraging her to continue. He could see that this confession took a lot of effort. "In a car accident," she said, her voice trembling. "I was waiting for them at school. They said they'd pick me up early that day, but they never came." Her words hung heavily in the air, and Keanu felt the weight of them deeply. He knew this was a pain no child should have to bear. "I'm so sorry," he said sincerely. "That must have been devastating." The girl took a deep breath, trying to maintain her composure, but tears began to stream down her face. She covered her eyes with her hands, her body trembling slightly with sobs. Keanu waited patiently, giving her the space she needed. He reached out his hand gently, not to intrude, but to let her know she wasn't alone. "My mom was amazing," she said between sobs. "She could turn anything into something special. And my dad, he made you feel like the most important person in the world. I miss them so much." Keanu squeezed her hand lightly, offering a calm presence. "They sound like incredible people," he said softly. "I'm sure they'd be so proud of the strength you have." The girl smiled faintly through her tears, but quickly frowned again. "I live with my uncle now," she admitted. "He doesn't like me much. I think he only took me in because he felt he had to. It's not like before. It's not the same." She paused, clenching her fists. "The only thing I have left of them is what they taught me, and the kitten they gave me before they died. He's the only thing that still connects me to them. I made a promise to myself that I'd take care of him no matter what." "Where is he now?" Keanu asked gently. The girl looked away, wiping her tears with the napkin he had handed her. I can't say. Not yet." The girl's revelation about the kitten drew Keanu further into her story, but her reluctance to share more left an air of mystery about what had truly happened. The night in Los Angeles pressed on, and the cafe began to empty. Keanu watched the girl, who seemed calmer now but still hesitant. He knew he couldn't force her trust, but he was determined to help. "You know," he said with a gentle smile, "taking care of someone or something we love is often what keeps us going. It seems like this kitten is very special to you." The girl nodded slowly, gripping the strap of her backpack tightly. She seemed to be deciding whether to open up further. After a long silence, she finally began to speak. "His name is Toby," she said with a faint, melancholic smile. "He was just a tiny kitten when my parents gave him to me. Mom said he was our little miracle because he showed up at our doorstep on a cold night on my birthday." She paused, as if reliving the memory. Her eyes glistened with a mix of sorrow and affection. "After they were gone, he became everything to me. He was there when I cried, when I couldn't sleep. He's the only thing that still makes me feel like my parents are close." Keanu nodded, understanding the depth of her bond. "And now, what happened to Toby?" he asked softly. The girl looked away, the pain returning to her face. "My uncle said he couldn't keep him. He said it's already hard enough having me in the house, and a cat was just another burden." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "He wanted to get rid of him." Keanu frowned, feeling his protective instincts kick in. "Is that why you ran away?" She nodded, tears welling up again. "I knew he didn't understand. Toby is all I have left of my parents. I, I couldn't let that happen. Keanu took a deep breath, absorbing her words. It was clear this girl was carrying an emotional burden far heavier than any child should bear. "And where is Toby now?" he asked, keeping his tone calm. She hesitated before answering, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "I hid him in a safe place." She paused, swallowing hard. "He's sick, and I don't know what to do. He stopped eating and can barely move. That's why I need money. He needs help, but I don't know how to pay for it." She looked up at Keanu, her expression shifting from sorrow to resolute determination. "My mom was a vet," she continued, her voice growing steadier. "She always told me to watch for signs, because animals don't talk like we do. Toby is thin, weak, and he's thrown up a few times. I think he might have eaten something he shouldn't have, like a piece of plastic or a thread. It's what my mom called an obstruction. I remember her saying that once when she treated another sick cat." Keanu was struck by the girl's attentiveness and knowledge. It was clear she had absorbed much of what her mother had taught her, despite her young age. "You seem to know a lot about what might be going on," Keanu said, impressed. "That's amazing." "It's not enough," she sighed, frustrated. "I don't have the medicine or the tools my mom used, and he might not survive if I don't do something fast." Keanu placed a reassuring hand over hers. "I promise we'll find Toby and help him. You don't have to face this alone." The girl looked at him, her eyes brimming with a mix of despair and hope. "Would you really do that?" she asked, almost incredulous. Keanu smiled. "Yes, but you have to trust me. We'll do this together." The girl revealed, thanks to her mother's teachings, that Toby might have a potentially fatal obstruction. This revelation deepened the connection to her past, while Keanu stepped in, vowing to take on the responsibility of saving the kitten, setting the stage for a race against time. The girl wrapped her arms around herself, as if trying to shield herself from the pain of her own words. "I did what my mom taught me, but it's not enough. I don't know what else to do now." She stopped walking, staring at the ground. If she were here, she'd know what to do. I just miss her." Keanu stopped beside her, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "It's normal to miss them," he said with a gentle tone that seemed to calm the storms within her. "But you're being incredibly brave, and now that we're together, we'll do everything we can to help Toby." The girl looked at him, and for a brief moment, her eyes reflected a spark of gratitude. "He's all I have left of my parents," she whispered, "and I can't fail him." Keanu nodded again. "And you won't. We're in this together." Reaching a nearby alley, the girl began rummaging behind some boxes. With quick hands, she moved aside a folded blanket that covered a small space between the walls. From there, she pulled out a small basket where Toby lay, curled up. The kitten was thin and barely moving, letting out a faint meow as he sensed her presence. "Toby," she whispered gently, stroking the cat's head. Keanu knelt beside her, observing the frail little animal. He immediately noticed how weak Toby looked, barely able to react. Something needed to be done, and fast. "He's very weak," Keanu said. "We need to get him to a vet now." The girl looked up at him, her eyes full of worry. "But I don't have money. That's why I was asking for help. I don't know how to pay for it." Keanu offered a reassuring smile. "Don't worry about that. I'll take care of it. What's most important now is making sure he gets the help he needs." Carefully, he lifted Toby in the basket, cradling the fragile little body as if it were the most precious treasure. The girl stayed close to his side, her anxiety evident as they hurried to catch a taxi. At the veterinary clinic, they were greeted by a kind receptionist. Keanu quickly explained the situation, and Toby was immediately taken to the examination room. Minutes felt like hours as they waited in the lobby. The girl fidgeted nervously, her eyes fixed on the door through which Toby had disappeared. Finally, the vet emerged, his expression serious. "Toby's very weak," he began. "He needs surgery to remove what's blocking his digestive system. It's a delicate and expensive procedure, but if it's not done, he won't survive." The girl looked at Keanu, her face filled with despair. "And now?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Keanu placed a hand on her shoulder and without hesitation said, "We're going to do the surgery. Don't worry about the cost. I'll take care of it." Keanu commits to covering the costs of the surgery, but Toby's critical condition and the delicate nature of the procedure leave his fate uncertain. The girl took a deep breath, trying to absorb Keanu's promise. Knowing Toby had a chance renewed her hope, but fear still kept her restless. As they waited for the vet to organize the preparations for the surgery, she began to share more about her bond with Toby. "When my parents gave me Toby, they said he was special, like a gift that came at the right time." She paused, running her fingers over the strap of her backpack. "He was so scared when he showed up at our door. My mom used to say animals know when they need to find a safe home." Keanu listened attentively, understanding that Toby was more than just a pet to her. He symbolized love, family, and connection, something she was determined to preserve. After some time, the vet returned. "We're ready for the surgery," he said. "But there's something you need to know. Toby is very weak, which makes the procedure riskier. We'll do everything we can to save him, but I can't promise anything." The girl swallowed hard, her hands gripping the edges of her chair. "You'll save him, right?" she asked, almost pleading. The vet nodded with compassion. "We'll do our very best." As Toby was taken away, Keanu placed a reassuring hand on the girl's shoulder. "He's in good hands now," he said. "The most important thing is that you didn't give up on him." She looked at him, struggling to hold back tears. Her eyes brimming with emotion, she whispered, "I just want him to come home with me. He's the only thing that makes me remember how good it was to be with my parents." Keanu stayed silent for a moment, feeling the weight of her words. "And you're giving him that chance," he said with certainty. "You're stronger than you think." Hours passed, each one feeling endless. The girl paced back and forth in the small lobby while Keanu watched, offering what comfort he could with his steady presence. Finally, the vet reappeared. "The surgery was successful," he announced. "We removed the object blocking Toby's digestive system. Now he needs rest and intensive care for the next 24 hours to ensure his recovery." The girl exhaled a sigh of relief, covering her face with her hands as tears of gratitude streamed down her cheeks. "Will he be okay?" she asked, her voice trembling. "We're confident," the vet replied. "He'll improve." Keanu smiled, leaning down to meet the girl's eyes. "That means Toby is on the road to coming home with you." She hugged him spontaneously, her gratitude overflowing in a gesture that said more than words ever could. Despite the successful surgery, Toby's recovery remained uncertain, and the coming days would be critical. Meanwhile, Keanu began to realize that helping the girl was more than just a temporary mission. It was an emotional bond he couldn't ignore. The girl could barely sleep that night. Despite the news that Toby had survived the surgery, the uncertainty surrounding his recovery kept her restless. Keanu stayed by her side, offering silent comfort. He knew his presence was the best thing he could give at the moment. The next morning, they returned to the veterinary clinic to see Toby. The atmosphere still carried a sense of tension, but there was a faint glimmer of hope in the air. The vet greeted them at the reception with an encouraging expression. "Toby is recovering well," he announced. "He's still weak, but we're already seeing signs of improvement. You can see him now, but remember, he needs plenty of rest." The girl nodded quickly, eager to see her furry friend. Keanu followed her as the vet led them to the small room where Toby was resting. As they entered, she approached the cage slowly, as if afraid of disturbing him. Toby lay on a soft blanket, his eyes half open. He let out a faint meow as the girl knelt beside the cage, reaching her hand in to gently stroke his head. "Hey, buddy," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You're so strong. I'm here now." Keanu watched the scene, feeling a surge of emotions. He knew this moment was more than just a simple reunion. It was a connection that transcended words. Toby was a link to everything the girl had lost, and now he represented a new chance for hope. "He's responding well to your presence," the vet commented with a smile. "Animals like Toby can sense when they're surrounded by love." The girl stayed by Toby's side for a long time, speaking to him in a soft tone. Keanu sat on a nearby chair, admiring the resilience of this young child. Despite everything she had endured, she still had the capacity to give unconditional love. When they finally left the room, the vet explained the next steps. Toby will need ongoing care over the next few weeks, a specific diet, medication, and a calm environment. With this, he should make a full recovery. The girl looked relieved, but her expression quickly shifted to worry. "I don't know if my uncle will let Toby come back home with me." Keanu frowned, feeling the weight of this new complication. "Don't worry," he said firmly. "We'll find a solution. You're not alone." She looked up at him, her eyes shining with a mix of gratitude. Trusting someone was clearly still a challenge for her, but Keanu was determined not to let her down. "We'll take care of Toby together," he assured her. "And we'll take care of you too." While Toby was recovering well, the uncertainty of where he could stay and the unstable environment the girl lived in created new challenges for Keanu. He began to consider a more definitive solution to help her. As the sun set, Keanu and the girl left the veterinary clinic. Toby was safe, but the future remained uncertain. The girl clutched a package of medications, her hands trembling slightly. "Do you think we can stay together?" she asked hesitantly. "My uncle, he won't allow it." Keanu stopped and met her gaze. "I promised to help you and Toby," he said calmly, "and I'll keep that promise." She bit her lip, her voice soft. "But how? I have nowhere else to go, and my uncle only lets me stay because he feels he has to." Keanu took a deep breath. "First, let's make sure Toby is safe. Then we'll find a place where you can be happy. Trust me." He pulled out his phone and made a call. "I know some people who can help," he explained. "Afterward, they have programs where you can learn about caring for animals, just like your mom did." Her eyes lit up. "You think I could become a vet like her?" Keanu smiled. "Absolutely. You just need a chance, and we'll make that happen." The next day, they picked up Toby and moved to a temporary home arranged by the organization Keanu had contacted. The cozy house offered safety and comfort for both the girl and Toby. As she stood silently, taking in her surroundings, Toby meowed softly in her arms. "I never thought anyone would do this for me," she said quietly. "You've already done so much, just by being yourself," Keanu replied. "And you're not alone anymore." For the first time in a long while, she smiled, a shy but genuine smile. Keanu secures a safe place for the girl and Toby, but an unexpected call threatens to change everything. The girl's days became brighter as Toby continued to recover. Their temporary home was peaceful, and Keanu stayed by her side, guiding her toward a better future. One day, Keanu found her reading a veterinary book. "Looks like someone's planning for the future," he smiled. She looked up. "I want to be a vet like my mom. I want to help animals like Toby." Keanu was proud of her determination, but knew she needed more than just a safe place to thrive. A few days later, he received good news from the organization caring for her. They had found a family passionate about animals who wanted to foster her and take care of Toby. Keanu felt bittersweet relief. He knew it was the best decision for her. That day, they visited the new family's cozy home, complete with a large backyard for Toby to roam. The girl hesitated but eventually said, "Maybe this is where Toby and I can start over." Keanu smiled. "You can always count on me." Months later, Keanu received a letter from the girl. She shared that Toby was healthy, and she was now involved in animal care activities. She wrote, "Thank you for showing me there are still good people in the world. You gave me a chance when no one else believed in me. I'll never forget that." Keanu folded the letter, deeply fulfilled. "Sometimes a small gesture can change an entire life," he wrote in his journal. "And in return, our own lives change for the better." If you enjoyed this story, we have many more that will warm your heart. Click the screen to explore more stories of hope, compassion, and resilience.